right, got another good dyno video for you guys here. We have a really nice STI on the dyno. It's got a lot of big parts on it. So we're going to be retuning this car today. I'm going to take you guys over here and show you a little bit about what's done to this thing. But this one's pretty cool. It's got a full IAG Stage 4 Extreme motor in it. It's got a 6870 twin scroll ETS turbo kit. It's got these new ID 2600 injectors. These are new to me. I've never done a set of these yet, so I am curious because they just came out on the market. So these things they're monsters. It's got the full fuel system in the car, the radium double pumper. This thing's got all the parts. So this thing should literally make all the power. The reason why it's here is because he's not quite sure what it's putting down or very happy with it. He thinks it's capable of more. So we're going to go into this, and I don't normally do this, but I'm going to do a base pull with exactly where the car is at because personally, I'm really curious. Apparently it was 29 pounds when it was tuned and it made over 650, which that's a lot of power for that little amount of boost. So we're going to do a base pull, just see what it makes, see where the car's at, see where the air fuels are doing and all that, and then go from there. One thing I am very confused about and I don't even know, how to explain this the way I'm feeling, but this thing, if you look here, it has a stock map sensor on it. So I'm mind blown on that. I want to do a base pull and see how much boost it's running. I'm curious, but when I retune this thing, I'm going to be pulling that off. We're putting a 5-bar on it. We're going to do it right. But other than that, everything else looks good on the car. It looks like it's got everything it needs besides that little deal there. So we're going to do a base pull, see what it makes. Here we go. All right, so we just got the first pull done, and the results were definitely not what I expected. This is kind of what he was complaining about. I was pretty surprised, actually. But it made, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'll show you. But it made 336 wheel horsepower because it was only hitting like 12 pounds of boost, and the boost was kind of doing this. It was really odd. So I did data log that pull with the way it came in so that we could see exactly what's going on and see if there's an issue. And try to figure this out. So I'm going to pull the data log now out of the access port. Got the access port hooked up now. We're going to pull the log out, and then I'm going to take a look at things and see where we go from here, and then we'll go from there. All right, so we're looking at the data log from that last pull here. We're trying to figure out what's going on. This is still with the tune the car came in with. I haven't flashed it or anything. You can see RPM was ramping up here, and then if you look here, we got our air fuel, and we got wastegate duty. So looking at this, you look at the RPM, how it's ramping up. We got duty cycle on the wastegate, which is a good thing. So something is not quite adding up here. 50% wastegate duty or so on a 4-port should be a lot more than 12 PSI. So definitely got something there. There's a couple other little things that I'm noticing here. I was looking at the cam timing. Cam timing looks interesting. So if I can pull it up here for you guys. So there's load. So there's AVCS on the right and there's AVCS on the left. So you guys can see here there's a huge difference. So this is not good. So anytime you have your cam timing on one side dramatically different than the other, you're obviously going to have issues. So left and right intake cam timing, I mean, there's a huge spread there. So it looks like What's weird is it looks like it's working down here, but you can see it's not even following the other cam very well. And then once we get into boost, it just drops off on this one, but this one holds steady. If we look at the exhaust cam's doing the same thing, which is weird. The exhaust side on the left is zeroed out, but the right side has, you know, 7 or 8 degrees of retard, which is right where it should be. So we got something weird going on here. However, that's not what's causing our boost issue. So now we need to start looking at a few things under the hood and see what we can find here. All right, so I was going over everything here, and first thing I drew my attention to was this Bluff Valve. I mean, these have their place, but in my opinion, not on a car with this type of turbo, because these are not really designed to run the boost levels these turbos are capable of. But I started looking at it, and I found a couple things. So one thing on the top here, this nipple is completely loose. So that is definitely going to be an issue there. Also, if you look at the threads they're showing, this thing also has loosened up. And that's one of the issues with these blow-off valves is over time, these will loosen up on you and they will start bleeding off boost and leaking boost out of the side here. So what we're going to do for testing purposes is we're going to tighten all this down, and we're going to max crank this thing down because I don't want it to leak at all. And then we're going to do another pull and see if our boost comes back and see what this thing will make. I just hope the car wasn't tuned with this issue, because once I crank this down and fix it, we could see more boost than we've ever seen, which, you know, if I see something crazy on the dyno on the boost, I'll let out. But if it looks within the ranges of where he said the car was tuned, then I'll stay in it. So I'm going to fix this and then we'll put it back on. All right, here's the numbers to beat. So we got the blow-off valve fixed. Let's do another pull and see if we can get more. All right, well, that pull did make more power, but unfortunately the car started breaking up and just wasn't happy, so I had to let out of it. As you can see right here, I was actually still in it right here when it dropped off, and then I let out and it shot up there. So, well, looks like I've got my work cut out for me on this one. So we've got a few issues we've got to figure out. I'm going to pull the log off the last pull and see. But yeah, it was definitely missing. I'm not sure if it was fuel related or spark. I'm going to have to look into that. But yeah, I'm going to start checking the logs. I'm going to go over everything, see what I can do, and then we're going to see if we can get this thing running right, because it should definitely run a lot better. So, all right, so that last pull we did, we definitely hit more boost. Something very funny though that I was just pointing out, and something I was worried about this map sensor deal, is as far as the ECU is concerned, we hit 28 psi, right? So if we look there, 28.2 psi, all right, which the sensor is reading that, right? Well, as expected, I mean, we saw, let's see if we can go over here to the dyno and see what the dyno saw, because I know it was a lot higher than that. We get the leashes now. So if we go over here to the dyno and we look at our pull, we'll pull up AFR and boost. Let's smooth these out real quick. Yeah, we seen 32 PSI or so at the peak there before we let off. So what's going on here, and you can also see, look at the air fuel ratio just took off. So the air fuel was stable at 11.0 and then it just leaned all the way out. So what we got going on here is exactly what I was worried about. We got a stock map sensor running. The engine's running more boost than the ECU really knows, and so it's just a bad situation. It's just not the right way to do things, in my opinion. I mean, I guess I do things a little differently, but to me, this is just a recipe for disaster. So most of this stuff, you know, could be taken care of pretty easily. But the only issue I'm really worried about is the cam timing on this car, because the cam timing is way off on these logs. We're seeing left and right bank differences quite a bit. We have one bank on the exhaust, the cam timing is just dead. It's just flat 0. The other bank is 7 or 8 retard. Then we've got 15 degrees advance on one, and we've got 5 on the other. So I mean, that issue right there is a big deal. I can't make the car perform the way it's supposed to with my cam timing that far off. You know, I know I could make it better than it is now, but in the end, it's not going to be what the car is supposed to be, and it's not going to be right. So we're probably going to have to call it today, because that's pretty involved, getting in there with the cam timing. And we're just not set up for that right now. We don't have parts and all that good stuff. So I'm definitely going to recommend pulling the timing belt off this, or pulling the covers off, checking the timing belt first, making sure the crank reluctor wheels and everything inside are good. And if all that checks out, then I'm going to, you know, recommend throwing a set of gears at this thing with some solenoids, and that should take care of it. So that's what needs to happen. You know, this car's got a pretty serious motor in it with a really good setup, and you know, you just keep pushing through issues like this, you're going to end up damaging the motor, and then it's just not a good thing. So all right, well, we're calling it on this one. I'm really bummed. I'm disappointed. I really wanted to see this thing rip today and make some awesome numbers, because I know it can. But we got to do it right. We got to just step back for a second and say, we've got a $20,000 engine in this thing. All the other parts, you just can't just cut corners and do it half-assed. You got to do it right if you want to make those awesome numbers and you want the thing to stay together. So I've told him everything he needs to do, what I recommend. We're going to, you know, first thing to tackle is I recommend the timing issue needs to get fixed. That's first and foremost. Second thing, needs a 5-bar map sensor to do it right and scale this thing properly. And then it needs a real blow-off valve. It needs a tile cue on there or something good, capable of venting enough pressure for that 6870, because even that little parent valve, it's not designed to vent that much volume of air, and it's just not going to protect the turbo properly. And the fact that it backs off on its own, it's another thing to worry about. Let's just put a good valve on there we can put on, be done with it, not have to worry about that. So cutting the video a little short, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry I didn't get you the numbers, but we will update on this one, and we're going to come back. So stay tuned.